It fluctuates between a mermaid and flounder and Muriel. What are you going to be when you grow up, Jaden?
How about you, buddy?
An archaeologist.
Nice, an
Oh,
archaeologist.
yeah, that is so cool.
You know why Grandpa likes archaeologists?
Why?
Because the teeth last the longest. So whenever they find fossils, they always find the teeth. And that's why dentists like me and Arun, we know a lot about anthropology because all their fossils were teeth or bones. Like your ear isn't going to be around in a million years, but this little tooth might.
Yeah.
But so basically he's good. They're fine. So basically, it's funny how eating in a car, my dad thought this was really going to take off because you might not be dressed to go in. You might not want to go in. You might want to sit in your car. And my dad, he was a very health conscious guy. So he would rather sit in his car and smoke while he was waiting for his hamburger. And so he opened up the Sonic Drive-In. He was delivering bread for 11 years, making like, 10 years, I think making $11,000 a year. And the first year he got this Sonic Drive-In, he made $60,000. And then he opened up one every year. And by the time I got out of dental school, he had 9.
Wow.
And so we went from the poor
American success story, huh?
Absolutely. It shows you that if a bunch of drunk Irish Catholics can make it, anybody can. And so we moved from the poor area town out to the richest area, Wichita, Kansas, which was Hidden Lakes Estates. And my next door neighbor was none other than Kenny Anderson, who's still practicing dentistry in Wichita. He just had his 50-year celebration. I mean, just unbelievable. So I would go to work with my dad and make cheeseburgers and onion rings. Right. And he was my idol. He was my favorite guy in the world. But then I go to work with Kenny Anderson, and that was the technology of the time. And we didn't have Facebook and internet and smartphones, but he was taking x-rays and looking through teeth and doing root canals. And they were all, back in the day, they were, Sargenti and he had his own lab tech, and it was they would bite down on a impression material, still use it to this day. I've only used one impression all my whole life, Improgum. And he'd make a little wafer. So it got the impression, the bite, and then he'd give it to a lab man, and the operatory next to him, the size of an operatory was just the lost wax technique, and he'd pour it up in stone. He'd cast a gold crown, and they come back. I mean, you could have any type of crown you wanted as long as it was gold. And you could have any type of root canal you wanted as long as it didn't take more than 5 minutes with Sargent. And I was just in love at first sight. So I wrote my dental school a letter in the 7th grade asking them how I could go to dental school. And Diane Beard sent me a letter back, and she said that she recommended that I go to high school and take science classes. And it just never deviated. My dad was really against the idea. He thought it was crazy. He was always begging, and this is all true story. I can't believe how.
No, of course, he needs help with those 9 places. Yes.
Well, crazy things. Well, all of his friends, their sons were dropping out of school and opening up Sonic Drive-Ins and making bank. And my dad was always telling me, he says, he'd always say 2 things. He goes, well, if you're going to go to 8 years of college, at least be a real doctor and not a dentist. And I'm just like, well, I want to be like Kenny. And, when you go to Kenny, isn't he a real doctor? And he just couldn't believe it. And guess why? The only reason I didn't drop out of school to go open up a Sonic, I think he wanted me to open up a Sonic in Coffee, Kansas, and Kearney, Nebraska, and all these places. Guess why?
Yeah, sure. Expand the brand. Yes.
It was wrestling. And there were 2 other guys on the team that are both endodontists. One is Alan Tebow in Wichita, Kansas. The other one's John Leese in LA. And I just thought, well, if I dropped out of school, I wouldn't get a wrestle. So I only stayed in school to wrestle. And I never thought of the money because my choices were, do you want to make tater tots and onion rings or root canals and crowns? And I never shook that idea. But here's what I didn't know what was going on is every year my dad had a Sonic, and you think you're an abused child because it's Saturday, all your friends going to sleep in, and my dad would pick me up, drive me clear across town, drop me off at an intersection. He'd say, Howie, every time there's a red light, I want you to take this piece of chalk and chalk off where the last car is, because I'm thinking about buying this lot, and if they're coming northbound, they need to turn in, and if that's blocked, then I'm not going to buy the land. So then he'd give me like $5 leave, and then come back and it'd be dark. And he'd look at the chalk marks. Then he'd say, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to drop you off Caddy Corner because there's a lot over there. And then we go to, you know, my friends would be riding motorcycles and I'd have to go with them to KAKE Channel 10 News and talk about advertising and demographics. And he'd always take me to the accountant, and he'd never take my 5 sisters because they were girls. And that's just the way it was back then. I mean, I was a boy, so this is all me. And so my 5 sisters did all the chores inside the house. And then I was a boy, so I had to do all the chores outside the house. I never figured out any of the logic of any of this stuff. And but when I was a senior year in high school, I started to get serious that, oh my God, I'm going to graduate in a year. And without even having a thought, I started doing my demographics. So back then there was no computers, no laptops, none of that stuff. So I used snail mail, and I wrote the United States Department of Economic Security in Washington, D.C. and said, do you have any economic outlook projections for the United States? And it was in 87. And she sent me back a 1985 report that said, from 1985 to the year 2000, the United States would create 30 million jobs, and half of them would be in 5 cities. And it was Tampa, Boston, Silicon Valley, or LA County, and Phoenix. And I'm just being honest how dumb I was. I mean, I don't like Florida at all, because when we went to Disney World, we saw more insects in an hour than we'd ever seen in our entire life. And people put screens around their patios, and we just thought it was like some freak insect invasion. And then of course Boston was cold. And then when you grow up in Kansas, you think everybody in California is on drugs and hippies and Hollywood, and it scared me back then. And so then I looked at Phoenix, and I started looking into Phoenix. So I wrote the Phoenix, Arizona, or the Arizona Department of Economic Security.
This all in high school.
What's that?
This all in high school.
No, this is senior. This is between junior and senior year of dental school.
Okay.
So I graduated in 87. So it's about 86. And she sent me back the 70, 80, 85 mini census. Then she sent me the 6-year production to expand the highways, the waters, all the data she had. And then I got a 6-foot by 4-foot map, and I traced out the 303 census tracts. And I wrote the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners to ask them if they had the addresses of the dentists per zip code. And she sent me back all in paper, you know, this big old manila envelope filled with the paper. And I said, whenever I had free time, I just, at school, when everybody else was doing their Crown and Bridge, see, I called Kenny Anderson. I had this class, and it was an entire semester to make a 3-unit bridge by hand. You had to prep it, wax it, cast it, the whole 9 yards. And I called up Kenny and I said, am I going to ever make a bridge? And he goes, hell no, you're never going to make a bridge. That's the craziest thing. He says, send the impression, send it to me, and I'll have my lab man make it. So I sent it to him, and I sat at the table, and all the instructors knew it because they never saw me do it. I was sitting at my desk, and I had this 6-foot by 4-foot map, and everybody come by, and what are you doing? And I filled out the 303 index cards. And then I put a white pen where, and the 303 were the zip code, the census zip code, census tracts they call them. And so I was figuring, I made a white card for each one, an index card that said the 1970 to 80 to 85 median household income, the growth rate, and the dentist per 1,000. That was about all I knew. You know, do you have any money, and how many dentists are there? And then I realized that was a waste of time. I just arranged the cards from where I went, 85044, which had 1 dentist per 6,000. And the second location had a dentist for every 5,800. I gave to my classmate, Steve Hayes, who went there in North Scottsdale. And it went all the way down to like 1 in 400. There was a building on 6200 South McClintock that had like 20 dentists in there. And I thought that was, you know, ground zero crazy until I went to San Francisco. They have a building in San Francisco. It has 110 dentists in one building. It's like, wow. Yeah, it's just great. If you go there, try to spend the day, because if you spend the day there, you'll get to see at least one dentist jump out the window head first. And so I picked the demographics, and then I went over to the computers were just coming out. That was a new thing. So I went down to what was it called? Oh my gosh, his name was Dave Cheatham. It was some real estate, some real estate company. I think it was associated with Sears somehow. But anyway, I went to this real estate company, And he dialed up in this fancy computer. I had never been to Phoenix, Arizona in my life. And I said, what can you tell him about 85044? And he said, well, there's God, what was he with? Dave Cheatham, some national real estate company. And oh, you want to see my dog? Come here, Bambi. Come here. Come here. Bambi. Bambi. Bambi, he said he wanted to see something personal. Come here. Come here, Bambi. Come here, you big moose. Say hi.
Wow. Okay.
Say hi.
Yeah. Okay. You are big pup.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the 4 dogs. And don't even ask me how I got 4 dogs and 3 cats. Too long a story. But anyway, Caldwell Bankers, that's what it was. Caldwell Bankers in real estate. And he said, yeah, we're building a 20-acre Safeway, Walgreens, Pizza Hut, Chase Bank, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you got 1,000 square feet or something out there. He goes, I do. I said, I'll take it. And he goes, well, aren't you going to see it? I said, I've never even been to Phoenix. He goes, you're going to sign a 3-year lease for $15 a square foot in Kansas City because you graduate May 11, and then you're going to drive there and take possession. And I said, well, I don't want to do $15 a square foot for 3 years. I want to do $20 a square foot for 6 years or 5 years. And he said, well, why do you want to do that? And I'd listen to all these motivational speakers and all these things like that. And I said, well, I want to get into an office with no money down. So you built the entire 20-acre center, and I just got a little 1,000 square feet. So instead of paying $15 a square foot a year for 3 years, I'll pay $20 a square foot a year for 5 years, and you do the build out. So he said, all right. And then at the time, do you remember, are you old enough to remember Healthco? Healthco, that was the big one before Patterson.
Patterson and Shine, of course.
It was before Patterson and Shine. I forgot, but it was the biggest one.
Yeah.
And so then I called Healthco.
Right.
And they designed the floor plan and laid out all the equipment. And they said the equipment was going to be, I'll never forget, because my student loans was $87,000 because my dad paid for my sister's college because they had ovaries. But he wouldn't pay for mine because he said, since I was a boy, if he paid for mine, I would go to Creighton and do drugs and chase women. So I had to buy my weed with student loan money. It was very, very, it was a very humiliating experience. But I want everybody to know I paid back all the government for all the weed I smoked. And so then so Healthco said, it was like the same dollar. It was like $86,000.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, but I don't have a dime. So you just break that up into 60 months or 5 years and 72 months. And then the last payment, I'll own it. And they said, okay. So I got a built out dental office with 4 operatories, brand new equipment, still hadn't paid a dime because I knew, because when I asked my dad, like, it was about 6 months before I graduated. I said, hey, Dad, if I buy a practice, is there any way you could help me out or co-sign or whatever? And he just started laughing. He goes, that's the thing with welfare, son. He says, you just give it to them one time and they'll still think of it. Here, I haven't given you a goddamn dime for 7 years of college and you're still thinking of that free welfare. He goes, never, ever give anybody. You don't feed the wild animals. And I wouldn't give you $1. He said, if it cost $1 to save your life, I wouldn't loan it to you because then I'd save you and you'd be ruined. I mean, just total, batshit crazy. I obviously took after my mother. And so I got into this dental office with no money down and it opened. I graduated May 11. I got it open September 21st. These new kids, I mean, I don't know what a millennial is, but I know if you were going to teach them how to swim, their first thing they'd read like 20 books on it. And then when you showed them the swimming pool, they'd like walk around it for like 5 years and they'd have to look at the water molecule under a, magnifying glass. They'd know everything, how many molars. I mean, in our day, you want to open up a business, you open it up, you dive in, you're not going to go bankrupt, but these millennials, they just overthink everything. I mean, they ask questions. It's like, dude, just do it. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, so I graduated May 11, got it open September 21st, and just in time for Black Monday. That's right, October 21st, the market dropped 27%. And this is a reoccurring theme I've had. I graduated from high school in 1980. How old were you in 1980?
So this is 88 you graduated.
No, 87 dental school, but high school in 80.
Right.
So how old were you in 1980?
Is about the same as you.
So do you remember that? I mean, that was,
Yeah.
oh my God, 21% interest rates, double-digit inflation, unemployment. Paul Volcker of the Fed Reserve had to have armed security at all times. Everybody wanted to kill this guy. And it was great because when I was little, and you ask, how come Grandpa won't go to the restaurant? Well, he grew up in the Depression, and he knows he can go buy an entire cow for $400, and that'll make steaks for a year. So he's not going to pay $17 for a steak at Black Angus. I mean, these guys, they just wouldn't spend money.
No,
And my grandpa always said, well, you can always tell if someone's a fool, just give them $1. He goes, they'll spend it within a minute. You give them $1, they'll just run the store and spend it. He goes, a fool and their money will always part. So he goes, do that, Howie. Just give your friend $5 and it'll be gone before it's dark. And so they saved all their money. I think my boy's grandfather, he didn't even retire till he had like $3 million of cash in the bank. No stocks, no bonds. I mean, it was in West Side Wichita Bank in the savings account, $3 million cash. And so I knew they didn't spend money. So I graduated in 1980. And I'm like, it made Lehman's brother and today look silly. Nobody was under that much stress right now that it was in 1980. You'd have to be very young to think this is the worst I've seen. And I'm sure it was a lot worse. I'd rather wake up to getting attacked by a virus than wake up and getting attacked by Pearl Harbor, the Germans, or the Japanese.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, come on, I'll take a virus any day over a sapien. I mean, I don't want to fight a sapien.
With 200 Netflix channels.
Yeah,
an iPhone that's got all the knowledge of man from the entire beginning of mankind, all in a little handheld device at your fingertips.
Yeah, and everybody that's wigging out on Ellen DeGeneres because she said it's like being home from prison. She's a comedian. If a comedian lets you down, maybe you have the wrong role models in your mind. I'll never forget when Mike wins Spix after he won like 2 million gold medals in swimming. He got caught with reefer, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, I'm crushed that my role model let me down." It's like, a swimmer is your role model? Do you not have a dad, a brother, an uncle? There's really this guy was your role model. But anyway, so I opened up my practice, and a month later, it was just like this. It just crashed. There was no spending. It was contracting. And I was scared, and I didn't know what to do. So what I did is I called my dad. I said, "What the hell am I going to do?" And he goes, "Are you scared?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "That's good. That's good." He said, "If you see 3 starving coyotes walking down a dirt road, something's going to die and get eaten." He goes, "You're scared. That's good. Now get out there and start running for mayor. Just go out there and meet everybody you can. And if you shake 10 people's hands," he goes, "Howie, when you sell a car, you got to get used to no. Because when I say, 'Hey, Arun, do you want to buy this car?' You'll say no. And you think, that's good because I need 25 no's before one person is going to say yes. I need to get my 25. So what I did is on Saturdays and Sundays, I got another big old map of Ahwatukee. Ahwatukee, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I've always lived since '87 Phoenix, Arizona. But this area, if you ask anybody, "Do you live in Phoenix?" they say, "No, I live in Ahwatukee." And it's like, okay, but don't tell the postman because he thinks you live in Phoenix. But it's just a tribal thing where they all say they live in Ahwatukee. I don't think I've met anyone in Ahwatukee that says they live in Phoenix. But if you're a lawyer, it's Phoenix. It's 85044. And on Saturdays, I would just get up and I'd fill up a backpack and I'd put gloves, mask, flashlight, and I'd just go door to door and I'd knock on the door. And I graduated at 24, and I'd say, "Hey, I'm Howard Farran. I'm that new dentist that opened up right next to Safeway and Walgreens and Pizza Hut and Chase Bank. And I'm going to be here practicing for the next 40, 50 years. And I just want to get out and meet the neighborhood." And 2 out of 3 doors would just like look at you like, "God, that's a dentist knocking on my door on a Saturday morning." And you could just tell they were like, you're weird. Get out of here. But I knew my homies would be coming up next. And it'd be some guy in his wife beater shirt and stained underwear going, well, actually, I look at here. And then I'd put down my bag and put on my gloves and get out my flashlight. I'd look at it and everything. He's standing on his front porch in his underwear. And then I'd say, well, you know what I really need is I need an x-ray. I said, do you think there's any way you can come to my office? And I'd pull out this little notebook pad, he says, when are your openings? And I said, well, I'm open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week till the end of frickin' time. Does any of that work for you? And I would do that all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and I wouldn't stop on Sunday until 7 to 7 next Monday through Friday. Every hour and a half, I had somebody in my chair. That was from knocking on their door on a Saturday or Sunday. And then if I had a cancellation, I had a bunch of flyers. I'm in the 16-acre parking lot. So basically, easy math, whatever the square footage is in a retail center, that's how many cars you get in and out of the parking lot a month. So if you got a 100,000 square foot Walmart, you're getting 100,000 cars in and out of that parking lot each month. So I was in a 16-acre Safeway, Walgreens, Pizza Hut, Chase. They were getting 40,000 cars in and out of that parking lot each month. And whenever I had a cancellation, or when I had two hygienists and one of the hygienists got a cancellation, I'd say, well, if you don't have anything to do, here's a stack of flyers, go put them under the windshields of the cars. And that was really good motivation for the staff, because in Phoenix, half the year, it's 110 degrees in the shade, and you know, you're working on your melanoma. And so they'd like, well, I'm going to go confirm, or I'm going to go call. You know, they'd find job. They'd clean toilets with their toothbrush before they had to walk around a parking lot at 110 degrees. And we just crushed it. We had good growth. We had good demographics. And now I see these millennials, and I love it when guys like you and me, I think knowledge only has value if you can transfer it. Right. If you can't transfer what you know, you didn't even need to know it. It's all in the transferability of it. And I love when the old guys try to transfer knowledge, because like right now they're coming out of school, like the COVID class of 2020, and they should all graduate. They should all get like a red corona around their head and be the corona class of 2020. And that is my number one passion right now in dentistry, because I'm an old man on my way out. I mean, I got 4 kids. It turned into 6 grandkids. I mean, and the only thing grandpas have to look forward to is the funeral. It's the kids coming out. They got their whole bright eye and bush-tailed. So I like to kind of set them straight. And that is, these big external shocks, the world's never the same after World War I or World War II, or they're never the same. And look at 9/11. Now you have the TSA, you know, so if you think about it, you and I personally both have spent our whole life in a viral pandemic. I got out of high school in 1980, and that's right when HIV was coming out. And I see the same things here where, you know, they're worried about catching coronavirus on an Amazon package. I remember in 1980, you know, people would always say, well, that guy has AIDS and he goes to the IHOP and drinks out of a glass. Well, they're not sterilizing the glass. Shouldn't it go to paper cups and disposable? And it's like, dude, if your wife came home with chlamydia and said she caught it at Denny's drinking on a dirty glass, would you believe, how long would you believe that? I mean, your cat could live on the roof, but you don't find them on the roof. So just because something's possible, like infinity, just because infinity's possible on math doesn't mean that it's possible in physics. It might be, but you don't know. So the HIV thing really got us ahead. I can remember in 1980, this is stuff you can't not make up. It's crazy. But when I got to Arizona, my favorite dentist was in the Scottsdale study. He was the oldest guy in there. He was balder than me, but wore this cheesy wig that looked like, you know, you could tell it was a wig. Stevie Wonder could tell this was a wig from like 100 feet. And when you went in his office, his cuspidor was his ashtray. And he had 100 cigarette buds in there. And of course, all of his patients that loved him forever, they were smokers too. And they loved going to the dentist where they could smoke, you know, while they're getting their dentistry done. And I remember back then, all the old guys were complaining about gloves and all this stuff. And I used to get these studies showing that the skin was better than latex and blah, blah, blah. But you know, it's the same thing. But we got incrementally better. We started wearing gloves and masks. It put downward pressures on the cuspidors. You don't see the cuspidors anymore. They're gone. I had, to be honest, I had an infection problem in my office. It was about 1989. And I did a root canal and it really swelled up. And it was a routine root canal. And I couldn't figure it out. And I was showing my x-ray to everybody that's an endodontist and they couldn't figure it out. About a month later, I had another one. And this endodontist told me, he goes, buddy, he goes, have you had your water lines checked, for a nice, well, I actually bought the big $1,000 machine that purifies all the water. He goes, yeah, but it's 110 outside. You might be growing something in your pipe. So I had my CFU checked. It was just off the charts. And it was off the charts after this machine. I called the guy who made the machine I bought it from, and he said, well, Phoenix is an outlier because, and I've heard this from dental supplies too. I mean, if I send a bottle of bonding agent to North Dakota, it's probably going to be fine, but you send it to Phoenix and it's 118 and it's sitting in the back of a UPS truck for a couple hours, and that's why gray market dental materials can be bad because they can be expired. They might have sat in Dubai for 6 months in a warehouse when it's 100. You don't know what's going on with the material. And so that's when I pulled the plug and I went to the individual bottle in the room. Now I think a lot of that's more going to change. That room, I have walls. Luckily, I didn't have the open bay. I think the open bay is dead. Luckily, I have walls, and we had taken the doors off, and now we're putting the doors back on. And I put a window in each one of my op because I didn't want to walk in there at dark and walk out at dark. I wanted to see the old biosphere. And so, you can cut a little square in the window and put a little fan. And all you need, none of this stuff is real. I mean, it's really not real. They're going to have herd immunity to this thing. I mean, do you remember?
It's a perception. It's a perception.
Yeah. I mean, 2012.
Things like this, of course.
2012, this is 2020. Do you remember 2012 when 38 million lives in America died from the coronavirus? Do you remember that?
What?
Do you remember in this country, you and I lived through it in 2012? That's just, a few years ago. 38 million lives were lost from the coronavirus just inside the United States.
No,
You remember that?
No, I don't.
Well, you swine bastard. What, you didn't read about the pigs all dying from the coronavirus? See, it was the pigs, and they're pigs. They weren't going to get a vaccine. They weren't going to get social isolation. They weren't going to get sent home and their $1,200 check and everything. So it just went right through the herd. 10% of them died. And now everybody alive has immunity. And that's what Sweden's doing. That's what, so who knows what's going to happen. But here's what we do know. If Santa Clara is already at 4% are testing positive to coronavirus antibodies, and New York, it's the same. Well, if you're starting at 4, it's going to go through the whole herd by Christmas. So what we're talking about, in the same thing with HIV, you remember before HIV and after HIV, how you were different with hookers. I mean, before, but anyway, maybe that's the wrong analogy, but the patients are going to think that, the sky is falling. So having it look, perception is reality. So perception, satisfaction equals what I'm perceiving minus what I expected. And when they go to the dentist, they're thinking they're going to go have an hour appointment with an escort who's HIV positive, and they're all wigged out. So the game of volume is dead. And so let me go back to how that game of volume works. So, when I got out of school, I charged $1,000 for a crown and $1,000 for a root canal. And Delta of Arizona, who I've always worked with and loved and admired, I have, because they're colleagues of our value chain. The first one was Ed Judd. I'll never forget when the end of the first year, I was going over my math, and my dad said to me, he's looking at my it was a pegboard system. And he's looking at my pegboard, and we're looking at revenues, and the number one on the revenue list was Delta Dental of AZ. And he goes, what's Delta Dental of AZ? And I said, oh, that's the insurance company. He goes, Delta Dental of Arizona? He goes, those guys have given you almost $400,000. He goes, what's the CEO's name? I said, I don't know. He goes, you don't know? He goes, God dang, if somebody gave me $400,000, I'd drop to my knees and blow the son of a bitch. And my little Howie doesn't even know who the hell it is. Now you get there on that damn phone, you call that son of a bitch, and you take him out for dinner. So I'm just like, so I call it. And this is how dysfunctional our value chain is, because they're always expecting, you know, after they give you $100,000 a year, that some dentist will call them up and use profanity because you didn't cover this or that. So they're giving the ADA $1,000. And it's like the Catholic Church and the Pope. And, you know, they don't give them any money. They just take collections. And then Delta gives them, Delta Dental of California last year did $1 billion. And the CDA has in Bill Dickerson to give a course, Delta or the Devil. And and I'm sitting there getting drunk at the bar with the president of the Delta Dental of California, and with the Delta Dental guy, I forgot where he's from, Wisconsin or Milwaukee. He was the big Irishman. This is back in the day, and we were all drunk. He's like, "Can you believe those freaking bastards? Give them $1 billion," and I'm in the same category as the devil. So they just have no relationship. Whereas my dad in the restaurant business, when we go skiing at Breckenridge, my dad would bring the meat man. Well, hell, he bought $1 million of meat from this guy a year. I mean, they were always working the value chain. So I called up Delta of Arizona. I said, who's the CEO? And they go, Ed Judd. Why are you asking? And I said, well, I want to take him to lunch. And the lady said, well, why do you want to take him to lunch? And I couldn't say, because I'd rather take him to lunch than blow him. But I said, well, you know, he's given me $380,000. And so, you know, I feel like I owe him lunch. And they were just like, okay, this is a joke. It's a setup. And so I met him, and it was some chicken fried place. I forgot what it was called. What was the name of that place you sell chicken fried steak? Anyway, but anyway, so we met there, and the whole time of the dinner, he's looking at me like a poker player, like, you know, what's the next card? So we're just talking, and it turned out all good because I was from Kansas, he was from Missouri, all this stuff. And when we got all done, he said, look, he said, how old are you? And I said, 24. And he goes, I want you to quit playing games with me. And I go, okay, what game? He said, well, I look at your math. You're doing more occlusals on bicuspids than anybody that I know of. He goes, they're adults. Why are you doing so many occlusals on adults? And I thought, I knew exactly what he was talking about because I was working on my FAGD, MAGDI, all this stuff. And there was this guy named Kim Cooch who basically said that, you know, basically taught me that all those cavities grow in between the teeth. There's no option, and they grow on the pit and fissures. And the floss carries air in between the teeth, and the pit and fissures, you know. So I said, well, come to the office, because I just bought that $38,000 intraoral camera from Patterson. You know, when Patterson sells you something for $38,000, you just have to count to 10 and it'll be 10,000. And if you just wait a year, it'll be for free in a cereal box. But the first camera was called a Omnicam from Patterson. And after you bought it, you'll notice you had rectal bleeding for about 3 or 4 weeks, which is normal. And so I sat him in the chair, and I don't regret buying it because I sold so much there. And I was just crossing my fingers like, oh my God, this guy's old. He looked like he was 65 or something. And I'm doing the camera exam, and he had 3 bicuspids, and the fissures were black. And I said, look, Dad, I said, that's like a birdhouse. Those bugs can't live in oxygen. So they live down there, or they live in between the teeth. What the floss does, it carries air in between the teeth, and the oxygen kills the bugs, and it wipes off the food and all that. So what I do is I spray them out, and I got out my creative micro air abrasion, which I love, but my assistant for 30 years, Jan, just hated it because it made this big a mess of aluminum oxide. And I sprayed that pit and fissure, and it always went to the dent. I mean, it opened up a hole. And then I put in the bonding agent and the composite and the dual cure. Back then it was something from Denmat, Bob Ibsen. I used all of his stuff. I loved Bob Ibsen at the time. He was a big mentor of mine. And I did it to those 3 holes. And I said, Ed, I said, in Wichita, everybody on the street has a problem with my mother because she has these big mulberry trees with birdhouses in them. So everybody has purple bird shit all over their cars and windows. And everybody's like, either cut down the mulberry trees or take down the birdhouses, but you can't put birdhouses in a purple mulberry tree. I mean, it just doesn't work. And I said, you know, if you get rid of all the birdhouses, if I went back home and filled up all the birdhouses with cements, no birds would live there. And he jumped up and he took off that napkin. He goes, Howie, That's just cooler than shit. And he shook my hand. And that's what I'm telling you. It was the value chain. And then I told him, I said, and then I introduced him to my girls. I said, look, now sometimes your girls send my girls a deal and they want me to write a letter about some case or whatever. And I said, my girls can't even pick your girls out of the police lineup. So I said to them, I said, here's the deal. My girls, we got an Office American Express card. If you have a question, why don't whoever has the question call my people and we meet for lunch? We'll buy lunch. We'll go over this in person, or hell, I'll drive over there myself. But I don't like doing the letter things. I want to have a relationship. And so we never had a problem with predeterminations. And then sometimes those girls, they always tease, they go, well, we could meet at lunch or we could meet after work and drink till, 4 night. And then they go, and I said, that's the way business is done. I said, if you want to meet the Delta Dental girls and drink till 3 in the morning, it's on the house. They're the value chain. They're going around to all these businesses who the only reason they're buying dental insurance is to attract and retain better employees than the ones who don't have dental insurance. And I said, you got to know your value chain. But I never had a problem. This word, I don't even know what the hell we're talking about. Well, how did we get on Delta Dental and Arizona? And
right, so you got the same office.
Yep.
You got the same office, and
32 years later.
Ties? Are you broke next door, or the same office?
What's that? Do I what?
You got the same office that you started with then?
Yeah, I rented 5 years.
Yeah.
And there were 4 pads, and the pads were $500,000 a piece. And Chase Bank bought one, Kentucky Fried Chicken bought one, Walgreens bought one, and the other one, Long John Silver's was looking at, and then the market crashed.
Okay.
And when the market crashed, that $500,000 pad, I waited about 2 years, and I told the guy I wanted to buy it, and I'd give him $200 for it. And he's like, and then he said, well, it's worth $5. I'll do $450. And I said, well, okay, well, as soon as when you realize you can't sell it, and you'd rather have 200,000 instead of 500 nothings, call me. One day, about a year, it was in April April of early 90s. He walked in my office and he says, if you give me $250, if you write me a check for $250 right now, I'll give it to you. And I wrote him a check for $250, and boom. So now I own the land and building. So I've been there ever since.
Same complex, but now you got the freestanding, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't understand why you'd want to pay rent from age 24 to 64, 74, whatever stuff. But here's what happened. Dentists got so good, they didn't know how good they were getting. And you see that now before the coronavirus, where it went to a game of price. So half of America has always bought their health insurance in my lifetime on price, and the same with dentists. I mean, they'll say, well, if I go to Arun, he's on my insurance, it'll be cheaper than if I go to this doctor not on my list. And then you'd say, but if you listen to the people, you have to listen. Like when someone falls down and breaks their leg, they say, oh yeah, they took him to the hospital, and listen to the whole discussion. They never ask, well, was the doctor board certified? What school did he go to? They figure if you go to the doctor with an appendix bust, that's what they do. You break your leg, that's what they do. No matter what the healthcare situation is, they never talk about the individual doctor, because they assume, dude, you're a doctor. He went to school 8 years. I'm sure he knows how to deliver babies, pull a wisdom tooth, straighten your teeth. They just buy on price. And so it got to be a game of volume. Oh, I know how we got on this, Delta Dental. So when I got out of school, I would submit my fees, and the insurance companies back in the day, they just told you what percent of your fees they'd pay. And they paid 100% of cleaning, exams, and x-rays, 80% of root canals, fillings, and 50% of crowns, dentures, partials. And whatever your fees you submitted, they pay that. Well, over the years, they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to send you a fee. And the reason they did that is because it was extremely racist on how they did it. And I was the one writing articles about this, getting in a lot of trouble from the older people. Nobody would publish it. So I actually started my own magazine in 1994. JADA published me 4 times. But what I noticed with JADA is if you look at the 4 times they published ones, they published 4 of my articles that no one could disagree with. But all the heavy hitting meat and potatoes, dead on arrival. So I thought, okay, so I even went down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and talked to Penwell Communications, and and they're like, well, Howard, come on, yeah, you know, most people have a little birdie on their shoulder that, you know, that makes them, tells them you shouldn't really say things like that, but you don't seem to have any filters, and I can't publish something like that. But here's what I noticed. So there would be like this company, Intel, and they had thousands of employees, and they were on the big local dental plan. Well, they paid, say that they paid $1 a month for the insurance, right? And then everybody was submitting their fees. So everybody, so here's Delta, they pay $1 a month per person. But if you went back to the all Black community, they were only approving maybe $600 for a crown, or the most American Indian, or the most Hispanic. But if you went to the most European, Paradise Valley, it was twice as much. So I went around and I went to each of the 4 zip codes, most white, most Black, most Hispanic, most Native American Indian. And I went to the store and just bought my regular groceries. I think it was a 6-pack of beer, carton of cigs, a gallon of gas, gallon of milk, some syringes for my diabetes. But I bought a basket of goods, and I showed that the basket of goods didn't vary in price. I mean, if you go to McDonald's in Beverly Hills, and then you go to McDonald's on, you know, Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, it's the same price for a basket of goods. And I said, well, how does this work? And they're like, and I had a relationship with them. I mean, I want to know, because I know they're not evil people. They would never intentionally be racist. I mean, it's the rule of unintended consequences. And they would say to me, they go, yeah, we're realizing this. We're getting pushback. And so eventually it didn't matter, because eventually the decision was, we're just going to tell you our fee. We're just going to switch from everybody submitting their fee. We're just going to tell you their fee. And I think that was really, really fair for minority populations. I mean, I would go to dentists and then they'd say, well, their costs are lower. And I'd say, well, if I only give them 10,000, you can only buy a Ford Escort. You give them 20,000, you can buy a Ford Taurus. So what do you mean you can give them 600 for a crown in South Phoenix, and it's the same as 1,200 for a crown in Scottsdale? I mean, are you out of your freaking mind? And he said, well, the people in Scottsdale charge more labor and higher rent. Yeah, because you're giving them more money. I mean, but anyway, but that issue was killed by going to the PPO and just like, we're just going to go to one fee, and the one fee is fair. And any system where they're doing different fee schedules per zip code, yeah, just look under the carpet and you'll see the same premium coming in, getting paid out more to the all white communities and less to the Native American Indians, Hispanic, African poor, whatever, wherever they're poor. There's a structural reason why they're poor. The rich people don't like to think of that it has anything to do with luck. They think it's all them, you know, it's just because of their greatness that this happens. But there's a lot of structural stuff to inequality. But anyway, so it turns out that when they give a PPO, I think, okay, well, how much money do I got to spend to advertise to attract a new head marketing? And if my average new patient would come in and spend $1, and let's say I'd make a quarter on, just for easy math, let's just say every new patient came in and gave me $1, right, and I would and I would make a quarter off that. Well, then of course I'd pay a nickel or 10 cents to get a new patient. I mean, it's just simple math. Well, these insurance companies that come back and say, well, you know, you sign up for this PPO, I'm going to give you 100 patients. And you think, well, I'll give you a volume discount. I mean, everybody understands volume discount. But, and so here's the patient thinking that everybody's the same. And my employer got me this deal through this insurance. And it says Arun's the provider. So they're all the same, and it saves me money. I'm going to drive to wherever the hell you are in Miami, and I'm going to go there. Okay, that was where it is. So half of America always thought like that regarding dentistry. Half only bought on price. The other half are like, well, that guy gave me a shot and he did this crown on the front. It looks fake. And I don't like his receptionist. And they had some problem. And they would pay value added market differentiation. And the big defining ones was, I lived through a lot of revolutions in dentistry. In 1980, it was the AIDS revolution, which went on to kill, depending on whose numbers you believe, 25 to 35 million people. And then there was the materials revolution, which, believe it or not, people don't believe this, but it was Bob Ibsen of Denmark. He wrote the first book on adhesive dentistry. And that's what triggered the bonding, which was the tooth colored, which was the whole cosmetic dentistry revolution that then Bob Ganley of Ivoclar got a hold of, and Bill Dickerson at LVI, and they blew that thing up until what happened? Lehman's Day. It was Lehman's Day that killed cosmetic dentistry. And then you had the digital revolution. We all went from paper charts to then Dentrix and EagleSoft, and now everybody's going to Open Dental just because it's open and you can program to it. And now the new AACD isn't the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. It's the American Academy of Disease Control Dentistry. And now half of Americans, and you gotta respect Trump, because Trump has some crazy way of knowing where the 51% line is. I mean, he did it with TV rating. I don't care if you like him, don't like him. I don't care if you're sipping on Clorox bleach right now with a UV sun lamp up your rear end killing coronavirus. I don't even care. But the deal is, he knows where the goalpost is. And he'll win re-election. I don't care what you think. He's going to win again. And what's he signaling? Half of America wants to go back to work. Well, you have your own friends and family. 51% of everyone I know think this is crazy. It's a hoax. It's the flu. That no matter what you tell them, they say 40,000 people die in car wrecks, 50,000 die in suicides, and heroin and drugs, and oh my God. In fact, when I've heard a lot of my cousins, they'll come to the door. They're not allowed to come in the house, and they go, "Mommy, why can't we go inside?" Grandpa's scared. He's scared of catching the flu. And they think I'm like handicapped, like I'm some old senile man, and little 2-year-old grandkids. I mean, I haven't hugged my Jasper since St. Patrick's Day, and I can hear his mother saying, "He's scared of catching the flu. He's old. He thinks if he catches the flu, he'll die." So Trump's absolutely right in that 51% of America doesn't give a shit, and they think this is crazy, and they don't want to go bankrupt. And some smart countries have done the same. Sweden, from day one, said, "You're nuts." Yeah. And Sweden is not even in the, and then a lot of people talk about their deaths and all that. You always got to look at those charts in per million, because of course New York's going to have more casualties than Honduras or Belize. I mean, they always say, well, New York City had more deaths than Iceland. Yeah, have you ever lectured in Reykjavik? They don't even have 250,000 people in that town. And that's where Omar was from. But the bottom line is, you got to look at those numbers at deaths per million. And my God, Sweden and America aren't that far apart. But the deal is, it doesn't matter logic. I mean, if logic ruled, that's just not how sapiens work. Does it scare them? Do they like it? Do they like you? Do they want to kill you? What is the deal? Well, they're scared to freaking death about this coronavirus. They weren't scared about the flu. And what's funny is they're pent up in their house, all scared of the virus. And when they can't take it anymore, they'll get in their car and drive around for an hour, which snaps up and kills 40,000 people a year. So, it's just the way it's risk analysis. And it's like, how many Americans who are afraid of flying? And last year, 3 people died in an airplane and 40,000 died in a car, but they're afraid of the airplane. They're not afraid of the car. I mean, seriously, Arun, man to man, what % of Americans do you think are just batshit crazy?
What % of batshit crazy?
Yeah. What % of the world do you think is just nuts?
I don't know. 12%. If you just toss that.
12?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's at least half. And It's at least half, but I love them. I mean, you wouldn't want to be born on Earth alone on a desert island. How boring would that be? I mean, the only great thing about life is the other crazy people. And if you ever went to a Farran family reunion, I mean, I think the CDC should be there doing genetic testing to figure out what went wrong. Is there a recessive gene? I mean, you know, I love crazy people, but
So what are you going to do with you said doors go back up?
it's going to be, well, I'm getting, I'll right there. It's in the 80s, the material revolution, the cosmetics, they were all so good that they didn't differentiate us. It became a game of volume. And so we signed up for all these fees. I want to go over overhead. You know, in 1987, I would do a crown and a root canal, Bill Delta, $1,000 for each, and they'd pay. And now they're giving me $650 for a crown and like $650 for a molar root canal. So when people tell you their overhead, I'll say, what's your overhead? They'll say, well, you know, labor is 25% and labs 10 and supplies 6 and rent's 5 and marketing's 3. And they miss their number one overhead. The number one overhead in America, 95% of all the dentists sign up for Delta, and that fee is 42% less than what you signed up for. The number one overhead fee in America is the fee reduction. Yeah, I charge $1,000 for a crown, but my PPO only gives me $650. I charge $1,100 for a root canal, but this plan only gives me $625. So their fee reduction. Well, how does that work? Well, I go in there and numb up this patient, then I run over here and do a hygiene check, then I go cement a crown, then I come in here and prep, then I'm going to leave and let you pack the cord while I go do it. That's dead. It's dead for half. Now, half of Americans, if they got a MAGA hat on, if they got a Trump support, that MAGA hat was red for a reason. The coronavirus is red, and that red hat, I mean, it's the perfect color. It was designed red by Trump just for the coronavirus, and that's a joke. And so what I'm telling you is half the nation, including 3 out of 4 of my children and my 83-year-old mother. My 83-year-old mother, every time I tell her to stay home, she tells me, Howie, of all my children, you're the one that's afraid of the ghost. I cannot believe what I'm hearing from you. I figured you'd have been the first one running down the street naked with a beer in your hand. And there you are, cowered up in a cave, all scared to death. What has become of you? So that's 51% of America. So all your big wham bam, thank you, man. Like I have an 8 operatory office for 32 years, and half of America, that's their mindset. My mother, if you came into her office and said, well, first we're going to take your temperature and ask you if you have a cough or a cold, she'd just be rolling her eyes like, really? Really? You know, so half of America that went to the lowest price, that went to the volume, that went to all that is the same as soon as you open back up the market. And by the way, as far as pent up demand, well, if you'll notice during the quarantine, everyone started brushing and flossing. They all stopped drinking Coke. There hasn't been any candy sold. I'm in Arizona. They haven't sold any candy since the last time I had to buy that, Cinco de Mayo thing. You hang on, piñata. I mean, my God. I mean, how could a dentist think that something changed in the DMFT rate? Did something change in the disease, messing and filled teeth rate in America? If anything, I know they're increased their sugar, smoking, drinking. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of dentist friends, at least my friends, I'm Irish. So, you know, Irish, we, when we're born, our first bottle is just Jameson straight. Before my dentist friends open up their office, they're going to have to go to rehab first for about a week, until the shakes are over, and then they'll try to go back to work. But I mean, so half of America, they're mad this happened. It's not going to change. But the other half, the value added, your half, who teaches them to get to their diplomat in the International Congress of Oral Odontology. I got my FAGD, MAGD. I got all these credentials. The people who wanted to go to the guy who was a diplomat in the AACD, that crowd is going to go to the American Academy of Disease Control Dentistry, and they're not going to play volume. And they don't care what the crown looks like as much as they care about not dying from this coronavirus. And so they're going to go in there, and the new dentist, So this is what I would do if I want to go back to the class of 2020, the coronavirus class of 2020. I would get out and I would go rent 500 square feet and I would build 2 operatories.
Perfect.
And it would be no volume, no PPOs, nothing. And perception equals reality. I'd have the UV lights on there on the ceiling. I would, the customer is dead, the gloves, the mask, the face shields, the suction is going to be the shop vac machine, the negative air pressure. You're not going to be able to run 3 or 4 rooms. You're going to walk in a room and you're not going to leave. I think it's even the rebirth of maybe some of this chairside milling, because I don't want to see you again. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do the root canal, build up, crown. We're going to be together for a couple of hours and you're going to give me a credit card for $2,500. And since this thing is gone, I know dentists who are cleaning up, because 80% of the dentists like me are in their house all naked in the corner, crying, sucking their thumb, afraid they're going to get killed by Casper, the coronavirus. And they're going to those dentists and they're already saying, okay, well, it's just me. I'm going to meet you down there with one assistant, and we stop taking all the Medicaid, Medicare, all the insurance, whatever. And they go in there and it's a toothache and they say, okay, you need a root canal, bill and crown. Take me 3 hours to do the whole damn thing. And it'll be $2,500 on your debit card. And if you don't have $2,500, then go to the freaking emergency room, whatever. And they are cleaning up. My friends are telling me that they saw 2 people today and made $5,000. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I talked to a guy this morning in Arizona, and a guy come in, he just had a crown done before the pandemic, and it's been killing him. So he did a root canal through the crown, charged him $1,500. The guy paid on his debit card. He went in there, nobody. He went in by himself and got $1,500 in his credit card. He didn't have the 25% staff. He didn't have the 42% reduction in price for the volume discount from PPOs. He didn't have 25 for staff. He just went in there and drilled a hole through the top of the crown and did a damn root canal and got paid $1,500 on his debit card. So I think half of America didn't change their diet. They got the same number of cavities. They just got bigger. They're just, the disease, missing and fill teeth. They still want to go to the lowest price. They still want the volume discount. So you were asking me to coach someone like just big clinics, big DSOs. I mean, when Pacific and Heartland and these guys are putting in new clinics, I mean, dude, they're like 10, 12 chairs. They just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Bob Fontana, when he puts in an Aspen Dental, I mean, it looks like it's it looks like a CVS. And that market is not going to change. The Trumpers never cared. They're not afraid. And statistically, they're right. 80% of the people that get this infection, they're not even going to know it. That's why I'm not as scared as the third world, because I don't like calling them third world, but they're the underdeveloped world. Because like you take you take Italy, that's the oldest median age of Europe. Japan, their median average age is like 41 years old. In America, it's like 31 years old. In the continent of Africa with 1 billion people, it's 19. This isn't going to hurt Africa. I mean, from what we're seeing so far, the 19-year-olds aren't the problem. It's the 60, 70, 80, 90-year-old people that have diabetes and high blood pressure and all this kind of stuff. It's not like the influenza epidemic in 1917. That actually really wiped out young kids. That coronavirus that came here in 2012 that killed 38 million souls. And I love pigs I think I love pigs more than human. I mean, you can fix a salad with bacon. I mean, you can fix any, I don't care how bad your wife cooks, you just add bacon and it's good. It killed 38 million pigs, and it was the baby pigs. It was all the babies. They lost a year of babies. So I'm not a virologist. I'm not an epidemiologist. I do know a lot about viruses. I've had every one of them. I've had herpes, HIV, corona. I have a list of like the top 10 viruses that are circulating in me now. But the bottom line is, I don't know why that coronavirus took out the kids, and the H1N1 Spanish influenza took out kids, and this one's not. But it looks like it's an old man's disease right now. It looks like 50. But I'm lucky. I shouldn't even worry, because the people that are getting screwed are over 60, and I'm 57. I mean, I'll only be 58 in August. I mean, I know that virus is looking at me thinking, nah, wait, let them wait 2 more years. And then they fly off to the next guy. And so I'll be safe. But I think the value added market differentiation, I mean, you're either cost leadership, who wins every market. The lowest price deliverer on airlines, Southwest Airlines, has 27% of all the fleet miles sold. Costco, Walmart. IKEA is the biggest furniture store in the world. I bet you $1 that all of your furniture in your house is bought at IKEA. In fact, have you been assembling all your furniture that you bought over the years during this pandemic? But the cost leadership crowd wins. That's why everybody takes PPOs. That's why everybody takes Delta. That's why everybody does it, because there's a hell of a lot more poor and middle class than there are millionaires. But that value added crowd, which in dentistry has always been half the market. Anybody who's ever shown their math. A lot of people always sit there and say things like, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'll say, well, can I see a reference or a paper or anything? Well, you know, that number just kind of fell out of my ass, but I know it's true. But when I see data, this market is always half. It's always half by on price, cost leadership, the other half by on market differentiation. Sometimes in Arizona, it's as little as, you know, it's a grandma from Iran, and she speaks Farsi. She wants to go to a Persian dentist. She'll drive from Ahwatukee all the way to North Glendale if the dentist is going to speak her native tongue. Sometimes it's cosmetics. Sometimes it's your group, implantology. I don't want to bridge. I don't want to file down a virgin tooth, which is bizarre because I can tell you I've never caught 2 teeth having sex in 32 years. So I think all the teeth are virgin. And by the way, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, well, I don't want you to file down my virgin teeth, but you can put a whole dead cow in my sinus. Oh yeah, you can fill it with paper clips. And I mean, I don't care if you just take a dump in my sinus. I mean, I don't care, but just leave those little virgin teeth alone. I'm like, well, all your teeth are technically virgins. I don't think any of your teeth have had sex, but and what's the deal? They can't see their sinus. So if you fill it up with paper clips and bone augmentation, and you could use a bone graft from like an old shoe you got in the garage, they don't care. They don't see it. That crowd, if you really have feelings for a virgin tooth, you're going to pay extra money for market differentiation. And that crowd is not going to like volume. And so what died? Well, first it was not wearing gloves, and it was cuspidors. Then it was that office suction where you put in an office suction in the first room, it'd like suck your wig off. And then in the 5th room, it couldn't even suck the slime out. That's dead. You can't clean all that. The bottled water, but you'll have the infrared lights, and that'll just look like really safety. And then you'll walk in there with the face shield, and you'll close the door, and you'll never leave. And they'll get it. They'll get it that you slowed down. Miguel in Lisbon, Portugal is talking about slow dentistry. And it's not about slow dentistry. It's about perception. And when they perceive that the waiting room is dead, we now changed the waiting room. It's gone full circle from McDonald's to Sonic Drive-In now. Now we're clear back to where I started in Sonic Drive-In. Stay in your damn car. We'll bring the hamburger out to your car. You're not coming in here and getting French fries. Stay in your damn car. And the waiting room's dead. And then, but when they come in, you're gonna have to screen them. Like, do you have a fever? Do you have coughing? What are your symptoms? And my health history is always the same. I just tell them it only burns. I only have pain when I pee. I don't know why. It's the only time I have any discomfort. And so then you'll bring them into the room. The dentist will do the whole thing. You won't be on a game of volume. So you might only see 3 patients on Monday, but each one of them paid you $1,500 on a debit card. So you went home with $4,500. And I hate to say this, but hygienists are going to have to go to independent practice. But by the way, how much time do I got? I don't want you sitting there thinking, will this guy ever shut the hell up? I can't hear you.
You got as much time as you want. You and I got nowhere to go. The audience has nowhere to go.
What do you mean nowhere to go? The police should be here any minute now. There's like 3 warrants now for my arrest. Yeah, if I run.
Normal. People got to think about work tomorrow. They got to think about this. They got to think about that. No, we got to think about nothing.
Okay, well then let's be frank. There are only 3 publicly traded dental offices on planet Earth today. So there's almost 7.5 billion people. There's 2 million dentists. There's a dentist for every 6,500. Only 3 of them are publicly traded. There's 1-300 Smiles in Australia. There's Pacific Smiles in Australia, and there's Q&M out of Singapore. I have gone on location. I know these. I podcast them. They're friends of mine. They all got rid of hygienists. What did they decide? They decided that you don't need a 24-hour emergency room because no matter how bad the dental emergency is, you can just keep doing vodka shots until the sun comes up. And so they're 7 to 7, 7 days a week, and they don't have hygienists. But people don't realize, why did they stop doing hygienists? Because they kept noticing that if it was a new patient for Arun, hell, Arun would stay in there 15 minutes and do it totally differently. And if the person had 3 cavities, you'd totally explain it. And before they leave, they would either do or sign up to have all 3 fillings done. And then every 6 months, you'd see them for a recall, and you'd come in there, it'd be a 4-minute exam. The patient's upside down. You got loops on, goggles on, and you never converted them. So they had 100, each one of these guys had about 100 locations. So they got rid of the hygienist. And now, okay, so look at a hygienist. I got a room. I'm paying her $40 an hour while the assistant's making 20. So I'm paying a $40 an hour person to set up a room when I could have cut that cost in half with an assistant for 20. And then they go get the patient and they take x-rays. An assistant could have done that. And then they're going to probe. So now they got to go get an assistant anyway. So now I got a $40 an hour hygienist and a $20 hour. I got $60 in there. And Delta's only going to give me $60 for the whole damn cleaning, and I got $60 in there right freaking now. This doesn't make any sense. And if you tell them it's making sense, they go, well, that's because when they're doing that, I'm in the room doing $1,000 root canal. And I'm like, dude, I've walked in 1,000 dental office unannounced, 1,000. If I'm anywhere, I'm out lecturing, whatever. I'm in different countries. I just walk in dental offices. Every time you walk into a dental office, where's the doctor? In his private office, on the computer. And they're always on Facebook. And let me tell you, you want to make money with Facebook? Delete your account. Okay, that's how you make money on Facebook. You go work. You go back in there. So they're always sitting on their ass while they're paying a $40 an hour hygienist to do a $60 cleaning. And then they're on Facebook Googling, I'm sorry, what did I do? Did I hit something?
No, you're doing good.
Am I still there?
Yeah, we see you, we hear you.
Oh, but I can't see you. I hit something.
Okay, well, I'm still here.
But I want to see you.
Okay.
What do I hit? Do I hit Zoom? Oh, well, I just want to say, you can see me.
We see you here perfectly, and I don't know why. Let me try this. Let me go out.
Launch meeting.
Okay. Now do you see me again?
Join webinar in progress. You are already in another meeting. Do you want to leave and join this meeting? No.
No.
Do I just launch meeting? You cannot. No.
I'm here. We can hear you. We can hear you on a roll. And
can you see me too?
We see you.
Okay, well, if you can't, do you care? But anyway, so the bottom line is, when they would go and they would get, oh, maybe it's this button down here. There you are. I found you again. I wanted to see my buddy. Right. It's so the reason on podcasts I always do video. Like a lot of people only do sound files, right. And that's fine if you're listening to a podcast while you're doing something. Hopefully. Because it's a lot easier just to listen to a podcast while you're at the bar doing Jello shots, and this whole deal is that then they would have a $20 an hour assistant seat up the room, go get the patient, take the X-rays, and then they would go get the dentist. When the hygienist would go get the dentist to do the exam, average hygienist would wait 10 minutes. So the hygienist in an hour exam spends 10 minutes just waiting for the doctor. And so they did this. So they say, okay, we're going to get rid of the hygienist. We have the $20 hour assistant, set it up, see the patient, take the x-rays. We're going to go get the doctor. Now the doctor comes in the room. He does the probe while the assistant deals. And then he scales. But he stays in there about 15 minutes. And that's the key. On a new patient exam, you come in there, you're about 15 minutes, and the accepted treatment plan is this big. And then all the recalls, you're in there 4 minutes and there's no dentistry done. So by getting rid of the hygienist, they're keeping the doctor in the room 15 minutes for an hour. And then also look at the exam. I mean, there's doctors watching. They go in there and they get a mirror, they look around, they clank on a couple of teeth and leave. That's different than probing 6 points on every tooth, scaling every tooth, feeling this up while I'm talking to you. Hey, Arun, how you doing? How's the dog? How's the cat? By the way, you got the best professional NFL football coach of all time. He's out there with the Buccaneers. And my gosh, I can't believe it. And he got Tom Brady. Oh my God. I can just hear them inflating the balls right now. And the bad part is, but anyway, so you sit there and he's in there 15 minutes. Then the doctor leaves and the assistant can come do the polish, the fluoride, pre the probe, write up the chart, dismiss the patient, all that stuff. So what did you do? You got rid of the hygiene costs. So when I go into an office and, the ADA says that the average overhead is 2/3, 65%. So and the number one expense, they always say it's labor because they don't care that your fee was 1,000 and the PPO only gives you 600. Your 42% of your cost is a fee reduction PPO volume discount. And then the next is 25% labor. Well, you break up that 25% labor, it's about 10% of cost is hygiene. And then about 10% of cost is paradental and front desk. When you look at 25% labor, that's about 10% hygienist and 15% assistant and receptionist. They're expensive people and they need to go into independent practice. Because when I look at all the hygienists over the years that are independent practice, what do? Well, they're not paying rent, mortgage, build out equipment, all that stuff. They have their house and their front room. They got rid of the dining room. They got rid of the dining room table and that china closet. You get rid of that because when you have a china closet, all that china has never been used. I mean, isn't that weird? Here's all these plates and dishes that if I ever was going to cook, I mean, most millennials, if you want to hide something from a millennial, you just put it in the microwave and they'll never find it, or the oven. It's all pizza delivery, no china closet. And they go put an operatory in the dining room. And their iPhone is their phone. And they don't take it. You can't take insurance. Really, you're going to get Dentrix and Easy Dental for a cleaning. I mean, when you go get your hair done, when you get your mani-pedi, I mean, how much does a mani-pedi cost when you get it done?
You're not asking me. I don't get it done, so I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant anal bleaching. How much when you get but what are these services? $75, $100? They all only take cash.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
And so you go there and they take their debit card on their deal and you give them $75. I have dental assistants who have a business in their house at night doing eyelashes. And girls will come over to their house, sit at the dining room table, and I think it's at least half social. Remember that pink Cadillac story? What was that? What was that makeup lady?
Mary Kay?
Mary Kay Cosmetics. I think that would be the best motion picture ever done because she was a woman in a man's world and they would hire a new young guy and she'd train him big straight. Then they'd promote him over her. And this kept happening and happening. And she was always heartbroken. Like, dude, when you got here, you knew nothing. I made you everything you were. And then you get promoted and then you'd never even remember my name. And then her husband left her for a younger woman and her kids were raised and she was done. And she lost the promotion of her lifetime. And so she said she's going to kill herself. And so she went home, got everything ready, got her cemetery plot, got everything in order, and got her gun and laid down in bed. And just as she was going to blow her head off, she thought, well, shit, I'm dead. Freedom is when you have nothing left to lose. Then she got all pissed off, put the gun down, said, I'm going to start my own damn makeup company. Started in her garage and she took pride in burying all these men that would never listen to her, promote her and everything. And freedom is when you have nothing left to lose. Why should a hygienist, why does she just practice alone? Why? Because men have kept it illegal. And Corona is going to get rid of all this male stupid stuff. And then they'll call them up and say, hey, Michelle, you going to have your eyelashes done? That's $75. No. You going to get a mani-pedi? No. I don't want hair, nails. I want my teeth cleaned. and she's going to have an operatory, and she's going to charge $100, and her girlfriend's going to come over there. And every place I've seen it, the dentists love it. I talk to dentists all the time, and this dentist, I was talking to him, he's in Colorado, and he said, man, it's great. They go in, she cleans the teeth. She sees something, she takes a picture of it on her iPhone and texts it to me. So, and then when they come to him, it's just for the dentistry. There's no money in these hygiene. So dentists always tell you, they're always, they say, well, I make money on my hygiene department. I say, okay, well, your hygienist has worked here for 10 years. She just did a cleaning, exam, and bite wings. Did you make $9.12 after taxes, or did you lose $8? He couldn't tell you the answer to that if you put a gun to his head. They're crazy. They go, I got a gut feeling I'm making money. Well, guts are filled with fecal matter, dude. You have a shitty opinion that you're making money. You don't know your ass from second base. And then you just ask them a simple question like, okay, I took all your, you've had the same staff for 10 years. You work the same hours. You work Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, 32 hours a week. There's 168 hours in a week. You only open 19% of the week. You have all the same bills. What is your break-even point per day? They don't have at least 80% of it. I'll say, dude, so you don't know if you have to do 2,000, 2,100, or 2,800 to break even? No, I don't know. But I know I'm making money on Delta Dental, and I know I'm making money on my hygienist. Ignorance is bliss, okay? I mean, if you have a head injury and you don't know who you are, you're happy. And so they don't know their costs. They don't know their bills. They're just flying. Dentists are, when it comes to business, they got one eye covered. They got one hand behind their back, and they're doing shots of Jameson while they're flying. They don't know any of their numbers. But the thing is, I can tell you that this is where the hygienists need to make a stand, and they need to do independent practitioner. And plus, everything you read in healthcare is about accessibility, availability. And the best way you could increase the availability of hygiene is when 200,000 American people that have a license to practice hygiene can do it in their damn home any day of the week, evenings, weekends. They could work for you Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, but when her Aunt Shirley calls her up on a Sunday and say, honey, can I come over to your house and I'll bring you an apple pie if you clean my teeth? I mean, and the only reason they can't do this is because of laws. And I'm a libertarian. I mean, I assume that all laws were written by evil people trying to steal your money and control you. And I think it's an honor not to follow the law. I mean, it's an honor to challenge every single form of authority. That's what being an American is. Being an American is I have the right to go to the store and die of coronavirus. And the healthcare community, which has taken about half the money of the economy. I mean, they really have. But then you look at Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, the hospital, the straight 17% of the GDP that actually goes to the healthcare community, the pharmaceuticals. And now they're like, oh, well, you will shut down the auto industry because the healthcare industry told you. Oh, shut up. I mean, everybody's so done with these guys. The bottom line is free the hygienist. Half the hygienists, it's going to be business as usual. Half of America doesn't care. They're going to go to wherever their insurance. They want their hair. I mean, you go into Walmart, they sell now. Do you know they sell lingerie at Walmart? How ugly do you have to be to get your lingerie at Walmart? At least go to Home Depot and get the orange tool belt thing. So you got 3 pockets for your lotions, your electronic devices, your perfumes and candles. I mean, but the bottom line is when you're getting your nails and your hair and your lingerie at Walmart, half the market, that's good enough for them. So the other half, the AACD, is going to turn into the American Academy of Disease Control. And so I think half of all dentistry is going to be fine. The pent-up demand. Have you seen any change in home care or diet since the pandemic started? In fact, if someone said to you, what's the biggest change in home care and diet since the pandemic broke out? I'd say they've doubled the amount of calories that they're eating. I've gained just a little over 418 pounds since I've stopped working. And I'm trying to make it an even 500 just for simple math, you know. And so I think half won't care. I think the hygienists just ought to demand licensures by credential, because a lot of hygienists right now, I have some friends, we're opening back up our office on the first Monday of May. We're shooting for May 4th. And my office has always been the more discriminating. You know, I've taken the PPOs, but we just kind of the upper middle class. I'm in Phoenix. I'm not in Scottsdale. I'm not in Paradise Valley. I'm not in I mean, where are you? You're in are you in a yacht right now, or have you parked your yacht? Or are you in an airplane?
I'm in Miami Beach.
So are you at where you park your jet at Miami Beach? Or your yacht? I'm in Phoenix, dude. I mean, I'm in Phoenix. In fact, Arizona is the Florida of the West. We're like the people of Florida, but more drunk.
And I've actually got multiple practices, and I've got practices that fit both of these categories.
Right.
So
yeah.
I've got the practice. I've got the practice, the Aventura practice that come in for full mouth, and you know the AACD, AAID, etc. You know, ADIA, and then I've got the ones where, you know what, the Home Depot is manager and the Home Depot cashier goes to, and the cashier from Walgreens goes to, and I got those as practices, and I got the practice is where the construction workers are going to. Okay, so I've got multiple practices in town, and they're actually not all cookie cutter of each other. Independent practices, completely different demographics. I did it intentionally because I'm not a chain. I'm not trying to make everything standardized and the same. I actually do it because it's my like little experimentation. Okay, it's like my fishbowl. I want to see how things are and everything. So when I lecture, when I talk, when I advise people, I can say, okay, this practice does this and this. This group does this. This group does this and this. So I've actually got all the different types of demographics, all the different type of practices. I got 5 separate practices, completely different, and different strategies, like you said, for each one of them.
Well, I've always extremely admired your business acumen. I mean, I remember the first time I ever saw you lecture in dental implantology.
But so what you're saying is,
I know
the one that's going to the 50%, that
right.
practice, and those doctors, they're chomping at the bit, and they're ready to go, not May 1st, they're ready to go April 28th. And I said, okay, just hang in there May 1, just for appearance's sake.
But no, what I was going to say is all my friends that own restaurants, right, that's a vicious business. They all, just like you, they have like 5 or 6 different restaurants, because the mortality rate is so high. They'll have a steakhouse, an Italian, they'll have 4 or 5 hedging their bets. And so yeah, I think half will be the same. And there will be pent-up demand because those cavities have now grown into deeper cavities, if not root canals.
Sure.
I think if you're the AACD, MAGD, diplomat of anything crowd, it's going to be low volume, and the PPO business is going to be thrown back. Now, how long will it take before a vaccine's coming out? First of all, you'll remember in physics, they told you there is no past and there is no future. There's only the present. So, you know, if I walked you out to the beach and said, Arun, point to where the Big Bang was. Well, you couldn't point anywhere because it's gone. It's no longer. And so we don't know when or if there's going to be a vaccine. I do know in my lifetime, in 1980, they were going to have a vaccine for HIV. It took 40 years. In my lifetime, they were going to come out with a vaccine for the common cold, rhinovirus, coronavirus. They've been talking about a vaccine for the common cold since I can ever remember. I can remember my mom asking, when are they going to have a vaccine? Why do you give them a vaccine for measles and mumps and rubella? Why don't you get one for the common cold? Remember, Arun, do you ever remember a dental school instructor telling you back in the day that they were going to have a vaccine for periodontal disease? For
and cavities, even strep mutans.
Oh yeah.
You know, we're gonna have it for cavities. You're gonna be out of business. Yes.
So millennials, when you see someone with a liver spot, you tell them there's going to be a vaccine for the coronavirus in 6 months. Yeah. We just look at you like what you are. You just came out of dental kindergarten school, and your teacher told you something and you believe it. Yeah, they're going to have a vaccine for SARS and herpes and coronavirus and decay and all that stuff. I swear to God, they should have never put a man on the moon, because anytime I tell anybody old something, they go, well, if they put a man on the moon, they sure as hell can do this. And it's like, I swear to God, I think Neil Armstrong, I think that was the worst idea America ever did, because now everybody's like, well, if you put a man on the moon, you sure as hell can make a toilet not break down and flush and talk to you. And so the expectations of what they're going to do are stratospheric insanity, and you have no idea if any of this is going to happen or not. But until it doesn't happen, satisfaction equals perception minus reality. And the perception of what is happening, I'm going to go in there, and half the market is no fear. 3 out of 4 of my boys. If you told them a guy with COVID-19 just walked through and touched that door handle, my oldest son would go over there and lick it right now just to piss me off. I mean, they're fearless. That's half the market. The other half of the market, they're going to come in. They don't want to see a waiting room. They want to see that you've gone beyond the call of duty with UV lights in the air and face masks and real slow. And, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we used to take your insurance, but I mean, if you want to go in some factory and get it done for half the price and die of COVID-19 and end your life on a ventilator, go. But this is the house of safety. And, it's like, that's where I go. Like when I go to my special place that I go to, she's got on a complete wetsuit on. She's got gloves, mask. She shows me her blood work and her paperwork. It's just a house of safety. And it's not really a red light. It's kind of like a blinking light. And, but that's the perception you're going to have. And so I think that we have always had 2 markets, but they're going to differentiate. Well, I can't tell you how long this will be, because like 9/11, we still got the TSA.
Yeah.
I mean, the TSA makes no sense. I mean, that is just complete lunacy. 20 years. I mean, so you could look at how those guys hijacked that airplane. They already got a door that you can't go through. The pilot legally can have a gun. I mean, the whole thing doesn't even make sense. So, but I'm looking at 9/11, which was 2001 and 2020. It's still all there. So I think at 57, I think the rest of my lifetime career, half of Americans are going to be coming into the dental office, and they're going to be worried about infection control, and they're going to pay extra. So it's a time where dentists can just slow down. It's a time where I can't do the 3-month hygiene check. I'm only doing one exam. If you do have a hygienist, I'm doing a new patient exam and an annual exam. If you want me to suit up with Neil Armstrong to walk in there, and the whole hygiene exam is stupid anyway. Like the hygienist say, Dr. Garg, don't touch number 3. It's very sensitive. Really? Well, let me beat on it. Is that sensitive? Oh my God. And then she says, do not blow air on that teeth there. It's really sensitive. Arun's like, really? Give me the air water shade. Oh my God. And then she says, and I got a stick on number 3. Really? Hand me a sharp instrument. Ow! I mean, when you go to a real doctor, if you went to a neurologist, I say, I have a headache. Does he go, well, does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt? Well, my knee hurts. Well, here, let me kick it in the knee. If I kick your knee, does it hurt? I mean, if your hygienist says she got a stick on number 3, she's either A, a pathological lying sociopath, or she probably got a stick on number 3. I don't need to come in there and see it again. I mean, it's just completely insane. So you can have hygiene if you're in the half, that's once volume. That's the Southwest Airlines, Walmart, IKEA, Costco. They're always the winners. They're always the winners because there's a hell of a lot more of them than people like you who have a yacht and a boat and a jet in Miami Beach. So, so the bottom line, in fact, the only reason I'm with my wife right now is because I can't afford to divorce her. I mean, if I won the lottery, I would divorce her today. I just can't afford it. And so the bottom line is that half of the market isn't going to change, but the other half, which has always been market differentiation, is going to differentiate to where the highest priority is life or death. And I'll give you some examples of that. So as a country gets wealthier, they spend their money on health. Anybody in economics will tell you that the only health is wealth. So in 1900, when we were a poor country, 1% of the GDP was on healthcare. By 2000, it was 14%. 2020, it was 17%. So as you get wealthy, what do you want? Clean air, clean water. You don't want to die. Milton Friedman called it the little blue pill. If I went up to Arun and said, Arun, you got two choices. You die tonight, or you buy this little blue pill for me, take the pill, and you won't die tonight. How much would you give me for that pill?
Whatever it took.
Would you give me your jet?
Yes.
Your yacht?
Done.
Yeah, you give me everything.
Yes.
So that market is most serious. So they're going to pay, they're going to drive clear across town to find the doctor who's not going to give them HIV and coronavirus. And let me tell you about HIV. Do you realize that I graduated in 87? Remember Kimberly Bergalis, the blonde girl, went to David Acker and she got AIDS. And so for 10 years, I used to, and it was never men. It was never young millennials. It was always the elderly. And it was always the elderly women. They always say, Dr. Fred, do you sterilize your drill? And I'd say, well, of course I do. Why would you even ask that? Well, I'm concerned about AIDS. So then I'd open up my drawer and I'd say, well, AIDS is a sexually transmitted disease. And our office policy is here's a condom. And if you would feel safer that I wore this condom during your appointment today, our rule is if you put it on me, I'll wear it. And then I give them the condom and they couldn't even touch it. And they're like, get that condom away from me. And I'm like, hey, if you want me to wear it, put it on. If not, shut the hell up and lean back. I mean, and now you see the neighbor spraying Lysol on their freaking Amazon package for 4 days. I'm like, yeah, and you got chlamydia from a toilet seat and you got herpes from a doorknob. And, here, do you want me to put a condom on when I check my mailbox so you don't get AIDS on top of it? So we're going to live with that for a long time because you can't fix stupid. And at least 12 billion of the 8 billion humans on Earth know nothing of microbiology. And it's apparent every time they open their mouth because it's the unseen world, right? I can see rabbits and dogs, but you realize that the majority of all species cannot be seen by the human eye. The majority of species are under 5 to 10 microns wide. You can't see, and all the animals they talk about. I mean, watch a Disney show. It's the 5 biggest, fattest animals in Africa. It's always an elephant, a lion, a giraffe. It's always something that Stevie Wonder could see. It's never the microbiological world. So they're going to be afraid of anything they can't see, whether it's a ghost or a goblin or whatever. So I say that you have 2 choices. You're either going to business as usual and just cater to 3 out of 4 of my boys and half the damn pedigree. And or if you used to be involved with market differentiation with doing full mouth dentistry, complete dentistry, FAGD, MAGD, diplomat, and anything. Actually what I did is I took all the initials and rolled them all into one BFD. And it just Howard Farran, BFD. And if you're into the BFD crowd, you need to make it where they can see it with their eyes. I want shit a giraffe can see. I want the UV lights. I want the HEPA air filter, shop vac. I just want you to look as crazy as you can. And they're going to say, I'll pay for that. I'm not going to go where my insurance. I'm not going to go over there and die across the street where they're doing hygiene checks every hour and a half. And that's where it's going to go.
Okay. All right, man. What else you want to talk about?
My God, any subject you want. I can. My lecture is 40 days and 40 nights.
I think that was a spot on type of thing. I mean, we can talk endlessly, but we might want to do it on a separate, on a separate podcast.
Sure, man. You can call me anytime. Actually, I kind of need to go. It's 2:42. I got a probation officer coming at 3. My AA meeting's at 4. And then I got to go pee in a cup at 5. And, honey, did you get my new batteries for my ankle bracelet? I got to go get my ankle bracelet charged. But other than that, I would just say that, again, I'll just finish with one thing again, that, the winners are always the ones that control their cost. The dentists never know their cost. They never know their break-even point. They don't know if they're making money on anything. It's be a good time to know your cost. For 40 years, I've seen these people. When you tell me you love Dentrix, I know you either have a tumor inside your brain, at least the size of a lemon, because it's not hooked up to your accounting. I mean, these dentists, they sit there and they got QuickBooks Pro over here, Dentrix Quicken over here. So all their payables and receivables and a tax accounting and cost accounting and managing your own account in ones, so they don't know their cost. And they just do enough volume that hopefully they'll make some money at the end. And so I would say, number one, just control your spending. I mean, I see these millennials come out of school and they whine about $400,000 in debt. I got a dental school on each side of my house. I got Glendale Midwestern and Mesa AT Still. These kids come out of school, $400,000 in a house. And within 2 years, they buy a $400,000 home in Chandler. And then they get married. And then she's not going to work. I mean, why should she work? She married a goddamn dentist, doctor, lawyer. She won the lottery. And then why have 2 kids if you could have 6? I mean, their costs are just out of control. So if you're worried, maybe you should just quit spending money. And I mean, my gosh, I mean, there's so many. You know how many times this is the number one feedback I've heard from my dentist call me. Now, granted, these are my friends, so when they call, they're drunk. It's hard to understand what they're actually saying. But you know what they usually say? I can't believe how much money I'm saving. I mean, I would go out for dinner 3-4 nights a week. That's $100 every time. I mean, I had one guy text me a couple days ago from Florida, and my God, he I mean, his staying home quarantine, he's cut his personal living costs in half. So just quit spending so much money. Get a hold of your cost. This too shall pass. And if you want to whine, I mean, the Civil War, I was born in 1962. That was 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. The Civil War, 1 in every 30 people died. Everything was made of wood, and they fought with fire. I mean, that whole east of the Mississippi River was burnt to the ground. And you're worried because your Netflix keeps freezing on you and you have to, wait till it reloads. My gosh, World War II. Could you imagine waking up to Japan bombing Pearl Harbor? 6 million. What's that?
Imagine being 18 years old, being shipped off to a foreign country back then.
For 4 years.
Yeah.
And now, but I'll tell you what.
Email.
You know what the greatest thing that's come out of this for me personally as a human, as a dentist professionally, is I was a little concerned about my fellow man, because I'd look in their mouth and see how much they brush and floss, and I'd like, yeah, something's wrong. But I had no idea the other end had 40 rolls of toilet paper after every poop. I mean, I was just looking at the wrong end. I never knew the back door was freaking polished. I mean, they're flossing and brushing that thing. They're sitting on bottles of Listerine. God, I'm just now wishing I would have been a proctologist. What the hell? I'm working on the wrong end of the mouth. I should have been on the asshole back door. That thing is just clean as a whistle. So we just got to get their oral health as clean as their toilet paper back door. And if we can come out of this pandemic and apply that toilet paper to the other end, we might be able to just extinct dentistry.
Man, that might be the perfect note to end on, huh?
And on that note, I'm going to go buy a roll of toilet paper.
All right.
Hey, seriously, I want to thank you for all
thank
that
you.
you've done for me personally, from hearing you over the years. I mean, I remember the first time I heard you in Vegas. I went on to get my diplomat in the International Congress of Oral Implantology. You come on my show a couple times. You've answered questions on Dental Town. Dental Town's exploded. I mean, it's got twice the traffic. I can't believe it because no one's working. But seriously, from just me individually to you, thank you